A couple of months ago, I was talking over the fence with the neighbour, as you do, and I told her, that the initial first lockdown in Queensland, had ended at this point. And I said, well, watch out for September, because September there's going to be a bigger, even worse lockdown, because the government's out of control. And she laughed it off, didn't believe me. But as of yesterday, seems like we are definitely heading in that direction. And we've still got a week to go before it's September, so the what are we going to say? The prediction, perhaps we'll use, for a lack of a better term, seems to be coming true. The Chief Medical Officer of Queensland is going all retarded again and cracking down. The borders are going to be all mucked up. Brisbane and the surrounding areas are going into limited states of freedoms once again, which is highly ridiculous. But anyway, the reason for today's video is the argument for coronavirus or COVID-19. The terms keep getting bandied about and swapped and interchanged, which is a bad argument from the Book of Bad Arguments, which is a handy little book that I picked up years ago by Ali Al-Musawi. I probably mucked up the name, but it's a foreign name, bear with me. Okay, so the argument from consequences. The example given here with a little picture is well, if we get rid of our cows, then we will have to walk everywhere, and that will be terrible for morale. Therefore, cow emissions are not killing our planet, which in this context means absolutely nothing. But basically, if we don't all go into lockdown, this mystery virus will spread and you'll be killing your fellow Queenslanders, which is a pretty shitty argument. The next one is a straw man. So basically, it says here, to put up a straw man is to intentionally caricature a person's argument with the aim of attacking the caricature rather than the actual argument, misrepresenting, misquoting, misconstruing, and oversimplifying an opponent's position are all means by which one can commit this fallacy. So you see that where, you'll have, oh, he's an anti-vaxxer, you can't listen to him. Oh, he's discredited because he wore a brown shirt. Whatever it might be. There's a lot of doctors, scientists, regular folks out there calling this situation for what it is and putting forward different theories that compared to the mainstream theories are a hell of a lot more plausible. Okay, so to give you an example, you have these things called exosomes. Okay, so they're basically identical to what a virus looks like when you whack it under a microscope. They have very similar behaviors, but viruses fall down in a lot of places with the main narrative because you have mystery cases that just pop up out of nowhere, and you'll have somebody infected with this ghastly affliction, but nobody can figure out how or where or why they contracted it. So the standard virus theory just doesn't work in practical application. Now with the exosomes, it's perfectly credible that one person can have the symptoms, etc., and the person next to them that they cohabitate with does not have the symptoms or the affliction. Okay, so that's just one example why exosome theory is far superior to the virus theory that the government and the medical institutions work on. Now, you know, and anybody who comes up with a theory that's different to the mainstream, you know, they shout them down and say all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of bad arguments out there for coronavirus or COVID-19 or whatever you'd like to call it. The Kung Flu, I like that one. The appeal to authority. Okay, so you've got to listen to this person. He wears the right clothes and went to the right schools. I think I said the exact same thing in another video a couple of months ago, but it's still true to this day. You've got chief medical officer coming up with all sorts of silly ideas, and those ideas are then getting enforced. And she's got a track record of being terribly wrong on things. I think she shut down the Ekka in Brisbane going back a bunch of years now because of what was it, swine flu or some other retarded reason. But basically all her predictions came to naught as per usual. Equivocation. Alright, so that exploits the ambiguity of language by changing the meaning of a word during the course of an argument and using different meanings to support an ill-founded conclusion. So, you know, you'll have COVID, you'll have Corona-19, you'll have, you know, all this sort of stuff. So the media and the medical officers and the government like to interchange those couple of terms, and words have specific meanings. So once they start throwing out different words and trying to use the same meaning, alright, that's a bad argument. Alright. So yeah, just be aware of that. You know, there's so many bad arguments for the corona and the lockdowns and lack of freedoms and all the other junk that goes with it. Really shows that this has got bugger all to do with science or reality or practical application of science in reality. It is purely propaganda to enforce a totalitarian society, and you know, measures have been taken by governments and councils around the country for a few years now, depending upon which part of the country you actually live in. But you know, where I live, they've begun rolling out this intelligent city program, which is basically going to turn Bundaberg into a smart city. Now, I hate that term because it's not smart, it's fucking retarded. So I'm dead against all that sort of stuff. But you know, an appeal to fear. Okay, the media is massive on that. They're nothing but fear porn merchants and liars, basically. They're just there to keep you scared. If you don't do this, you'll get sick. If you don't do this, that person will die. If we don't shut everything down, everybody's going to die. Everything's, you know, it's an absolute bloody rubbish argument. You know, mankind has survived all this time and you know, never needed vaccines or anything like that. And it's a funny example. I was in Officeworks, start of the week, end of last week, and I was at the counter, and this old couple came in, probably in their 60s, and they walked in straight up to the little goo pump, putting that crap on their hands. Anyway, I said to the old bloke, I said, mate, stuff's no good for you, you know, you're wasting your time, don't use it. Oh, is that what you think? Yeah, that is. It's, you know, science. It's, yeah, he couldn't seem to fathom the idea that what he believed, not what he thinks, but what he believes is true. And, you know, that's the big health risk. And mind you, he was fat and old. So he's got other issues to worry about rather than corona or COVID-19 or the super death virus. It's there's so many bad arguments. An appeal to ignorance. Okay. This book's just full of so many things that apply to the current situation. And it just makes me laugh. It's I have zero fear of this. I literally give no credence to anything that the government or the media are pushing. Social distancing, which is basically a torture technique used by the CIA and others, and it's extremely effective. The humankind needs social interaction. They need contact. They need to be close to each other, and without that, it's very detrimental to human health. So if you are social distancing, stop. Go out, hug somebody, shake hands, kiss a stranger, make sure that they're not a grub, but just live your life. Realize that there is no massive threat to your health except the threat that government is enforcing and imposing upon you. Tell them to bash it up their ass. And it's a funny thing, since the beginning of this whole COVID-19 experience, the authorities have said, social distance, don't do this, don't do that, this is dangerous, blah 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 blah. Now, a standard sedan, so we'll say a Commodore just for ease of thinking, if you have two people sitting in the front seats, so driver and passenger, they sure as shit are not 1.5 meters apart, so hence they are not social distancing as per their guidelines. And you'll see this in every single police car, every single council car, government car. People do not social distance, but they try to tell you to social distance. If things were such a deadly, horrible thing, why is it that councils kept on staff and the staff weren't social distancing or doing any of the things that the guidelines demand or recommend arbitrarily? Should the council have a duty of care to protect the workers and keep them separated so they don't get sick? Well, they obviously don't believe their own bullshit. So there's another indicator that things aren't very truthful from the authorities. The mayor, he likes to get out and socialise. The other councillors, they record themselves not social distancing while saying that we should social distance. Okay, hypocrisy. Absolutely horrible stuff. Okay. You've got these silly buggers in the hospitals. Hospitals are overrun and everything's bad and our poor staff. But they got time to do choreography and dances and everything like that. Now, me as a person, a man, who has to pay taxes, I'd like every single one of those nurses and doctors who did those little dance routines, I'd like them to be fired. Why? Because if I'm paying their wage, I expect them to be doing their job. And since they're wasting time doing silly shit like that, no, get fucked, get fired. Okay, if it was a private business and you were dancing around while you're supposed to be attending to your duties, then obviously you'd be fired, or at least put on a warning or something like that. But this sort of stuff's encouraged. And then that brings us to the schools. The little kids at schools, they're there to be educated and taught, but they're sure as hell not getting taught. Wow. They're being told what to think. not how to think. And I'll have to pop it in another video, but while I was in the council building a month or so ago, they had a lot of postcard type of things that, you know, school kids apparently filled out, and messages of support, etc. And the wording sounds like it's the teachers filling it in and then giving it to the council to display as a further propaganda apparatus. So you've got kids out there freaking out about this. So the schools have got kids freaking out about climate change and global warming, and it's all bad, we're all going to die. Now they've got this new one. So, you know, poor kids today are just getting double teamed by the education department, you know. Poor little buggers. A friend of mine, he coaches young girls AFL. Anyway, their morale seems to be a little bit low. They lack the enthusiasm and stuff, and I thought about that. It's like, well, I think they've got the COVID blues. You know, they just don't have the up and go that young'uns should have. And why? Well, because they're doomed. Everyone's telling them they're gonna die and the planet's gonna explode and all this other sort of rubbish. So it's a big problem that's happening in the country at the moment. And then you've got the coercion to come. Everybody's got to get the jab, the jabby jab. Okay. Look, if you want to get this injection, go for it. Be my guest. Fuck it, get it twice, just for good measure. But don't expect me to get it if I do not want to get it. Do not force me to get it by using government to force me to get it. You know, free choice, consent. These things are all important. You know, there's legislation that's been pushed through unlawfully in South Australia, where they will now take your children away from you using all force necessary. Now, if that doesn't freak you out, I don't know what really will get through just how dangerous a situation we are currently in our beautiful country. You know, so don't put up with it. Don't put up with it. Say no. Do not consent. Get your friends, your families, your neighbours, band together, do what you got to do. And I would also suggest arming yourselves, whether it's a pointy stick, a lump of wood, a brick, a rock, a rifle, fucking a crazy dog. I don't care what it is. When the jackboots start coming, you're gonna need everything you've got, because the government's not your friend, and they want to take your kids away, and they want to inject you with an experimental thing from what I can imagine will not be as advertised. And government in the past has supported many things that have been extremely harmful to humans. There was I'll muck up the pronunciation, but thalidomide, I think it was. You know, there was that many birth defects and all the rest of it, and horrible bloody stories coming out about that. Agent Orange in Vietnam, you know, all these weird injections that the army gave the soldiers when they went to Timor. Yeah, it's a long list of bad stuff that governments do to their own people and other countries' peoples. Alright, so, you know, do some research. You know, look at stuff. Don't just look at it from one angle. Okay, it's a highly interesting topic. You know, but yeah, I would I would highly suggest looking at the video I uploaded a couple of days ago about exosomes and viruses and things like that. It's quite an informative, enjoyable little video. Highly recommended. And apart from that, I'm going to go and do some more housework. So you have yourself a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Catch ya.